So we understand that we are involved in something difficult, and we understand that we bear that burden of it, but we may not understand that we can unbear that burden. And finding forgiveness for ourselves was actually key to me in carrying a lot of the guilt that I felt with as patients didn't always do the way I'd hoped they would. So I think that's the key, forgiving yourself. And there are many, many ways to do that. I'm not talking about taking yourself on a good vacation, although that helps, right? And I think it also has to do with kind of a higher power in spirituality. And how those all dovetail in. And that has crept into the conversation throughout the course of the first half of this. So let me start. This is a provocative question because I wanted it to be. Because I hear this so many times, and it makes me nuts. So there is a quote that goes around, and it usually starts with a patient saying to me, well, I just got this cancer diagnosis, and last year my mother died, and my kid's in jail, and I have no money, and blah, 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 but God doesn't give me any more than I can handle. And I'm going like, oh, I think maybe you got some of some other people's. I think you were standing too close. So that's the question. I know we have two ministers in the room, so we'll start with Anne, and then maybe I can call on Jeff, who's hiding in the back. So as a cancer survivor or caregiver, so this goes out to both, do you believe that God can give you only what you can handle? So I'm going to turn the podium over to Anne. Great. Yeah, me too.
So we have all heard that. God never gives you more than you can handle. It's often, I think, something our friends say because they don't know what else to say, and they're trying to be helpful, and they're really reaching for something that they think and hope will be meaningful. But let's start with the fact that it really doesn't land very well. It is not like that verse from The Impossible Dream about the person who's willing to walk through the gates of hell for a heavenly cause. To say to someone who is struggling with cancer, whether it is the person who is doing it or the family member, God never gives you more than you can handle, is kind of a cliche. Not only that, it's a misinterpretation of that particular verse from 1 Corinthians. What that verse really says is everybody has stuff. Everybody has stuff. Issues, struggles. Paul refers to it as what is common to humanity. The part of the verse that doesn't get quoted that we're missing is that God's present in the struggle with us. God gives us a way to deal with that. So I think it's really important that we come to terms with that as well. Friends of mine, when I was in seminary, said that sometimes a verse like that is like throwing somebody a bag of anvils and asking them to walk up a hill. I don't think that verse means for us to feel that God is throwing us a bag of anvils and asking us to walk up a hill. But we all struggle with that question of why. That's what Viktor Frankl's book is about. Man's search for meaning. He meant everybody, but okay. And what he said was an echo of Friedrich Nietzsche. We can live with any how as long as we know why. Why is this happening? Why do children get cancer? Why do I live and someone younger dies? Why am I here and my partner is dead? What's the purpose in my life that I'm supposed to catch because I am still here? Why does a 21-year-old struggle with coming to the end of his life and say to me, you know, Ann, I just want my life to matter to somebody besides my family? Why does that happen? That question is as old as the human race. And that's what we struggle with. And throwing a cliche at us to say, well, you know, buck up, kiddo, because God didn't give you more than you could handle. Rick's going to use a slide right after this to quote Mother Teresa. I've heard similar quotes that from folks who have said, you know, I just wish God wouldn't think I was so strong, because I'm not. And I think we say it to ourselves sometimes to encourage ourselves to say, you know what, you can do this, you can do this. It's like a self-talk thing that we go through to encourage ourselves. And I've been the caregiver to 2 folks in my family who have passed from cancer. And I can see both of them trying to use those words, even misinterpreted, as ways to encourage themselves to keep getting up and keep trying every day. So it's part of our human struggle to want to know why. Maybe it is God gives it to us, but we don't know that. Our faith may tell us that, and that's okay. I'm only here as one voice, as a cancer caregiver, professionally, personally, as one person with my own belief system, but I encourage you to examine it from your own. So maybe this has come from God's hand, or maybe it's random, or maybe it's a genetic proclivity, or maybe it's from our environment, and maybe it's influenced by our diet. There's a lot of maybes. But that buck-up therapy thing that discounts our pain and discounts our struggle and our suffering, that's not helpful. We need folks who will stand in the fire with us and say, I get how hard this is, and I'm not leaving. And that's the message that comes to us in Scripture from another part of one of Paul's letters. And I want to just share this part with you line by line. This is a passage that has made a tremendous difference to me in my life, in my ministry, in my career. Paul says to the church at Rome, and these were folks whom he had never met, but he's writing to them about the struggle of faith and all that one must go through to hold on to faith, and how that happens. And so he says, who shall separate us from the love of God? Shall things like tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? No, he says, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am sure, and hear his words, I am sure that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation shall ever be able to separate us from the love of God. The verb tense, shall ever be able to separate us, was a way for Paul to write in the first century for all time. He tried to think of everything he could think of, powers, heights, depths, rulers, life, death. Nothing, he said, shall ever be able to separate us from God's love. So not cancer, not treatments, not the ravages of treatment, not feeling small and vulnerable, not feeling hopeful and ready to move on in life, nothing. Not struggling with life's meanings, not asking the question why, nothing shall ever be able to separate us from the love of God. God has not thrown us a bag of anvils. God has promised a never-ending, companioning presence. And because of that, like Paul said, we are more than conquerors. We are more than survivors. We are beloved children of God.
And that was gorgeous. But the audience was 50-50 before you spoke. I bet if we checked now, there'd probably be 100%. The actual verse that Anne had asked us to use clearly shows that caveat where God is present with us. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength. But with that testing, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it. Thank you. And here's the Mother Teresa quote: "I know God won't give me anything I can't handle. I just wish he didn't trust me so much."